Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Random Health-ish. I am your host, Dr. Gloria Stone Osbeck, and today we have a very, very special guest. Tonight we have Miss Sheila Sullivan, and she's going to be talking to us about the AIDS epidemic, and she's going to be talking to us about HIV testing and counseling. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Miss Sheila Sullivan. Hello.
Hey.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on to the show. I'm so excited to have you on tonight. Um, First, just start out by telling the viewers a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. I'm Sheila Sullivan. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, and I am an HIV STD pregnancy prevention person at the moment. um, I'm an HIV tester and counselor as well, and I've been in the field for quite a while. I started out as a unpaid advocate almost 40 years ago.
Wow. So
Almost 40 years ago, because people I knew were getting sick and dying.
yes. Yeah.
So I don't think most people even thought about females dying,
Mm-hmm.
but I had an acquaintance die close to 30 years ago. And she was the first female that I knew.
Wow. And I remember when we talked a couple weeks ago, you said that actually the population that is actually getting hit the most by HIV and AIDS is Black women. So why do you think that is?
So let me clarify it a little bit. So
Okay.
um, HIV is being targeted. The targeted population is actually Black and brown males
Mm-hmm.
who are sleeping with men, whether they consider themselves straight or not.
Yes.
However, people forget about females altogether. And because of that, we are at a higher risk. We're at a higher risk because we, one, consider us if we're straight and the man we're sleeping with is straight. I'm not HIV, I'm not at risk.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
We're in the fact that nobody's talking to us about our risk because this came out at first as a gay white male disease.
Mm.
And for years, no one was talking about Black males. And
Wow.
then we never talked about our females or our males who were intravenous drug users. And
Yes.
you got to remember, this is post Vietnam. So we had a lot of risk factors that nobody was ever addressing. And it was actually a disease of privilege, and people don't see it that way, but it was. There is no other communicable disease that ever existed that you could be tested and do it anonymously.
Yes. Wow, that is crazy. I think that especially now in 2021, 2020, I don't really hear too many people saying, "Oh, well, I'm going to get tested." Whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you're in a relationship. I think that people have kind of tried to downplay HIV and AIDS nowadays. Versus back in the day, they had people would come out to the colleges and give you the rapid HIV tests. I don't really hear much about that anymore.
We're not really doing that anymore.
Yes.
Um, there we go through phases. We went through a phase where we called test to treat. You tested everybody,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then they said, nope, we're going into targeted testing, which means we're only testing people who are considered to be at high risk. Well, guess what? Females have never been in that equation.
Mm.
Now, nobody's considering the fact that behaviors have changed. Okay. So, what people don't want to just deal with is the fact that being a male who slept with a male generally meant anal sex. It's the anal sex that made them high risk.
Mhm.
It's because if anyone was positive and if they were a top, then you're talking about a tissue that was not meant to have a lot of activity. And
Mhm.
so it was easily torn. And because it was easily torn, it made it an easy entry point. Well, guess what? You
Women
got
are
a lot more women having anal sex. So it
yeah.
helps their risk factors.
Yes.
The
That's
other thing is women don't understand basic things when I talk to them about. When I tell them, I said, tell me why you don't use them, make your partner use a condom. Period. For
yeah.
any, okay? Especially if your partner is not your permanent partner.
Right.
Why aren't you asking them to use a condom? Because if you are at risk of anything, you're at risk of everything. If there's a possibility that you can get pregnant, then you can get an STD, an STI, or HIV.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, using unprotected, having unprotected sex, also puts you at risk as a female of, throwing off your pH balance. And so it's so much that goes along
So
with
many things
yeah.
happen to us because
Yeah.
we're receptacles,
Yeah.
we're receivers. And what I tell people, I said, you have to look at it this way: you're good soil. All seed can't be laid on good soil because it'll grow.
Right. That's true. I was doing some research, and it said that since the epidemic started, over 75 million people have been diagnosed with HIV or AIDS. And that's a lot. And that number is steadily growing. Um,
And those are only the
mm,
people who have been tested.
right, right. So, what are some trends that you are seeing as an HIV tester and counselor in your practice?
Oh, there's so much. It really is because one, there is no platform for females.
Mm,
And when I talk to people about there not being a platform for females, I've had people say, well, no, because we're talking to trans women. And I said, no, as much as we love trans women are male. So we have a different body chemistry. Regardless of what you do, we have a different body chemistry. And
mm,
when you look at the commercials, because we have PEP and PrEP now, and PrEP is pre exposure, which means I can take this in case I get exposed. And PEP is post exposure. So I had sex with someone, I'm not sure if they're HIV positive, and now I need to take this. Both of these are antivirals.
mhm.
Okay. So what you have to understand is what they're actually doing is taking medication. A lot of the medication that is out here was not made for women.
Mm.
When you look at the commercials, they will say that it is for people who were not assigned female at birth.
Wow.
And so people don't pay attention to those things. But because of that, we've got to look at what is it that we don't have or don't get. We have women who are trafficked and they don't have a lot of options.
Mhm.
We have um, rape victims and molestation victims, and let's be honest, people aren't testing for that.
Mhm.
We will test for things that they can get an immediate result for, but a lot of people aren't testing for that. And when people come to the clinic to get tested, generally they want to pee in a cup and be tested for chlamydia and gonorrhea, possibly trick. But I tell them, I need you to go and get a blood draw because I'm in a clinic and we're not doing rapids because you need an HIV. Oh, I don't need an HIV test. How do you know you don't need an HIV test?
I think part of it is fear.
Today, fear is so unfounded. There's so many things that can be done today. 30 years ago, when people were wasting away, I understand the fear. But today, you can have babies. You can have a normal life. You can live a normal to a ripe age because there's medications that can work with it. It has basically become, if treated, almost a chronic illness.
Yes.
But the problem is we still want to act as though it doesn't exist in the Black community. And
Mm,
we always want to act as though it doesn't exist among women.
yeah. What is the protocol if someone comes into the clinic, you guys do blood work and you find out, okay, this person is HIV positive. What is the protocol? What happens after that positive test?
So it happens differently for everyone, but if they are found to be HIV positive, they need to be notified. The health department has to be notified. They are then turned over to a linkage to care worker. Okay, the linkage to care worker will walk them into all of the paperwork they need to do so that they can get treatment. A
Hmm.
lot of linkage to care workers will walk them with them to their first appointment because there's other blood work that needs to be done. You need to know what your T cell counts are. You need to know what medications that you can or cannot take. And once you get to a your doctor and get situated with a doctor that you like, because you need to know it's a doctor that you can deal with.
Hmm.
This is a long-term doctor. You have to also make sure that your doctor has all your other medical issues in mind. Because just because you're HIV positive doesn't mean it wiped out everything else that could be wrong. So if you're HIV positive, but you had high blood pressure, or you were diabetic, or you had an immune issue other than that, like if you had MS, you still have those things and they still have to be addressed.
Hmm.
So then you get to your doctor prescribes your medication, and then you start working on becoming undetectable. Now, just because you're undetectable does not mean you're not transmittable. And there are going to be people who fight me on this, and that's fine because that is about your risk. But if you are sleeping with somebody who has a broken immune system, it doesn't take much for them to also become positive because
Yeah.
they may not be something to not become. So we have to be careful about that undetectable equals non transmittable.
Yes. I think that it's so easy to just kind of, you know, I guess try to convince yourselves otherwise, like, well, hey, I'm on this medication and I'm doing well, so I don't have to do this or I don't have to do that. And you have a lot of people who are HIV or HIV positive or have AIDS, and they don't tell the other partner, and end up passing it along that way as well.
You have people who, first of all, we have a culture in America, possibly all over the world, but I'm only concerned with us, um, of not knowing your partners. This is a dangerous world. Not knowing your partners could actually cost you your life, and I'm not talking about HIV.
Hmm.
Okay, somebody can be really sweet in the club, okay, and be Charles Manson behind doors. And I need my women to really think about those things. How do I keep myself safe? Period. The other thing is we have to remember that when you have an STD, you may not have any symptoms. Okay, only 1 in 10 people have a symptom when they have an STD. So if you have an STD, you also have other issues. Okay, so now if you don't know that you have it, you're not getting treated. If you're not a person who normally goes to the doctor in between partners, how long are you carrying an STD? How
Hmm.
much damage is that doing to your body? And when you're getting a lot of damage done to your body, it opens you up for other things. So when your immune system is broken, it makes you more susceptible to anything that comes your way.
Yes, that's so true. What are the different, I know you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what are some of the medications that are out right now to help victims?
There's so many out there today. I really can't even get that list.
Is it all
Um,
like just
Back in the day,
pills?
there was like three, and then
Oh.
there was like three big cocktails that sometimes had up to 30 pills. Um, I am in prevention, and I just come out and say I'm in prevention. I don't do care anymore.
Yeah.
I don't do care. So my job is to keep you from having to take the pills. I wish I could tell you. I don't have that information for you.
Okay. So what are some, so I know that you have to have a blood test to know whether you for sure have it or not, right? But are there things that men and women can kind of look out for that might be like a red flag that they may have it? Is it like, you know?
Okay, there's people who get sick, and you do get flu-like symptoms. The
Hmm.
problem with that is getting flu-like symptoms could be anything,
Yes. So,
and it's often ignored.
yeah.
Okay, um, people gotta get tested. I wish I could say there was something that really would be, oh yeah, and you're gonna get this, but that's not necessarily what
Hmm.
happens. Sometimes you have it for a while before anything happens.
Yes. I've heard of
Um,
people having it for years and not knowing.
because their immune system was strong. Um, there was a woman whose daughter I actually met. And the reason they found out that she was HIV positive is because she had broken her hip. And once she broke her hip and went into the hospital, she got thrush and they couldn't get rid of it.
Mm,
Well, she was at an age where nobody even considered testing her.
right. Yeah.
She was 77 and she was HIV positive. So we have to stop pretending that it stops at a certain age. You are sexual for your entire life. You're a sexual being.
Hmm.
And just because you're in a nursing home, because my singers are doing some things, okay? And I've had women, because in a nursing home, generally you have to have a prescription for condoms,
Hmm.
and your guardian has to sign for that to be take place. And getting adult children to say my parent who is in a nursing home can have condoms is like pulling teeth.
I know.
But they can have sex.
Yes.
They are consenting adults, so they can have sex. And if they're having sex with someone, the only thing that the um, attendant in the nursing home can do is close their door.
Wow.
They're consenting adults.
And it's funny because, to me right now, this is funny to me, but, I'm going to be at that age at some point in my life.
You
Oh,
got to think of it this way: whatever age you are today, at some point you thought that age was old.
I know.
So when you get to another point, there'll be someone who will think you're old, but you're still who you are. As
Yeah.
I tell people, I said, the freak you are at 15 is the freak you are at 50 is the freak you are at 85.
Yeah.
What changes generally isn't how you feel. What changes is what you can do.
Yeah. So what are some ways that, of course, condoms and things of that nature, but how often should you get tested?
No less than twice a year.
Okay.
Um, I also believe that if you are changing partners, get tested.
Yeah. So I have some
Um,
form here. Miss Jones said that symptoms are normal, as if you have the
mhm.
flu. However, everyone reacts to these symptoms differently.
So let me introduce. Well, she's gonna kill me. Um, so Tammy Jones used to be the head of HIV services in the city of Cleveland Health
Oh,
Department. She's
nice.
also one of my best friends. So
Well, Tammy,
um,
thank you so much for tuning in tonight.
I know she's gonna get me for throwing her under the bus, but that is a great thing.
Oh,
um,
and I remember you saying something too. Your partner, depending on what I guess strand of HIV they have, will determine what type of medications that you
yes,
can or
medication.
cannot take.
So this is how it works. If I have HIV and I'm taking medication X, Y, and Z, and I pass that virus to you, any medications I took before then that I can no longer take, the strain I gave you can't take it either. So you
Mm,
can't take medications I took and didn't work. So there's a whole, how do I put it? It's like the generations now don't remember taking shots for allergies.
mm.
Um, Allergy shots. I love you, Tammy. um, there used to get to a point where you became um, the your allergies became immune to them.
Mm,
So what happens is you're talking about a virus, and we stop believing that this is a virus. This is a virus. Viruses change, and
mhm,
they become accustomed to certain things. And once it becomes accustomed to that particular thing, then it no longer becomes effective against it.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
when partner A passes off a, a virus to partner B and they're taking medications, if that person passes that virus to number partner C, he may not be able to take the same medications.
Because it mutated.
So it starts making the available medications for you smaller. It makes your access to treatment a little less. And we've got to really start thinking about those things because it's not about punishing somebody, okay? It's not about saying, okay, well, you have HIV and this is what it is. It's not. It's about saying, how safe can I make you as much as I make me? Because what you have to also, people have to remember is I remember in the beginning when everybody was like, oh my goodness, they have HIV and they'll give it to me because they're breathing in the room.
Right.
And I was like, that's not what's going to happen. You've been outside, you may have a virus, you may have the flu, you are more dangerous to them than they are to you.
Mhm.
HIV is an intimate virus. You can't get it by being across the room. You can't get it from a hug. It's an intimate virus.
Mhm.
It's a virus that has to actually get into your bloodstream.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of this is something that I got because I was just casual. No, you was a little bit more than casual. But I want you to be safe. It's not about telling people, well, you were bad, you were this. No, how safe can I get you to be with yourself?
Mm. Miss Tammy said, much needed
Yes,
conversation as HIV is still prevalent in our communities and prevention is key. Having sex is not the problem. Having unsafe sex mixed with negative decision making is the problem.
yeah,
Yeah, it's so true.
because we don't consider those bad decisions. I'm having sex with somebody I don't know. I'm having unsafe sex with somebody I don't know. I'm having unsafe sex with somebody I know is not safe
Mm,
because they're having sex with a lot of other people.
yeah.
I'm drinking or drugging and I'm having sex. Or I'm having sex with somebody who's drinking and drugging.
Yeah. And then it's not just the sex, it's needles. Because
It's
some people,
needles.
you
And
know,
we're using needles for a lot of different things these
yeah.
days. And we're sharing needles. And people back in the day, we used to talk about the 3 plus 3 plus 3. If you had a needle, you had to flush it with water. Then you flushed it with alcohol. Then you flushed it with bleach. I'm sorry. And then you flushed it with water again before you used it again. And as I tell people, I said they don't even talk about those things anymore. Now it's just a matter of, hey, there's a pill. Well, there's a pill, but there's also good decisions.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
How,
we don't talk about personal responsibility anymore.
yeah. So if a young lady has HIV,
Mhm.
is she able to have a vaginal birth or would
She
they say,
is.
okay, can she pass
She
it on
is.
to the baby through the vaginal birth or,
If she's on her medication and she's taking her medication through her um, up through delivery, there's a great possibility she's undetectable. When the baby is born, the baby is tested. After which, depending on the doctor, I've come to realize that baby is on antiretroviral meds. That baby does not have to be HIV positive.
hmm,
She can have a normal birth. She can have multiple children. Um, there are one, two, three, four, five, six children who were born through the children that I knew were HIV positive. Um, no virus whatsoever. No virus whatsoever. Um, and I'm really happy about that. So there is a lot of things that can be done now. There's a lot of people who can make different decisions, and that's a good thing. They're
hmm.
making better decisions.
I'll never forget a few years ago, I was actually in Dallas, Texas, and I was doing a screening, a health fair at an HIV AIDS marathon type of race. And I met this young man, and he was out there. He was walking because he lost his mom to AIDS, and his mom was actually married, but her husband was sleeping around with other men, and
Mm.
that's how she contracted the disease. And I'll never forget that story. Never.
There's a lot of women who got HIV at home.
Yeah.
But we also have to remember that there's women who've passed it to men as
Mhm.
well. And we never talk about that. So we do have straight men who are HIV positive as well. Um, One of the things I used to do years ago, because a lot of people don't even know it exists anymore, is I used to play the waterfall video because everybody kept saying, "Oh, you only get it if you're a gay man." And in the waterfall video, we had a female who passed it on. And I didn't realize how many people missed that whole segment of the video. And we have a lot of people who were exposed that didn't know they were exposed. Okay. Um, People who never got tested because we don't talk about people who became HIV positive and died from something else
Mhm.
and never was never diagnosed.
Yeah.
Okay. I know of a man whose wife is HIV positive, and literally he died in a car accident. She didn't know he was HIV positive.
Did she know that she was HIV positive?
They didn't find out she was HIV positive until she got sick
Wow.
because he died in a car accident. They didn't test that corpse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they had both been drug users, but they were both clean at the time.
Wow. I met a young man recently. He was, I think, maybe about 19 years old, and he was already HIV positive.
We
And
have
I remember being
teenagers.
so shocked by that.
We have young teens who are sexually active and who have contracted. So we have to remember that we have a rise in gonorrhea, chlamydia, and trichomonas. Okay. And with that, it's sexually transmitted. We're not talking about the people who don't know. Our children, the pool of STDs that tend to end up in our teenagers generally didn't start with a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to understand that the pool of people our teenagers are sleeping with at some point interjected by an adult somewhere along the line. There was an adult interjected somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that adult carries can end up in that pool. Decision making of teenagers is careless. They think they're invincible. And because of that, and because of their fear of their parents finding out,
Mm-hmm.
even though teenagers can go to the doctor at 13 without parents and be tested and get treated, they still don't do it. A
Yeah.
lot of them still don't do it.
So, what are the various ways that you can contract it? So, we know through sex. What about through saliva, like kissing, anything like that? I know cuts, like maybe somebody accidentally cut themselves, and it can be transmitted that way. Um, what am I missing? Am I missing anything, or is that just kind of like the basic sharing needles?
Sharing needles, wound to wound contact, unprotected sex by somebody who is HIV positive. And mind you, all of these um, have to have an HIV positive person in the mix.
Right.
Okay. And I say that because a lot of people say, oh, but, and I go, no, if there wasn't anybody HIV positive in the mix, you can't get the virus.
Right.
It doesn't float down out of the sky. You can't, it doesn't blow through the wind. Which is why I say it's not a casual virus. Um, mother to child transmission. If the mother is viral load is high enough. Okay. Unprotected sex, wound to wound contact. When it comes to kissing, a lot of people had a lot of questions about it. Can't pass it through saliva. But a few years ago, people got into bloodletting. I know it sounds crazy.
What is it?
It sounds crazy. It became a trend. Some people do it. It's a vampire thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Something like
Yeah.
that.
Uh,
What about like oral sex, things like that? Can it be
yes, any way you can get it. Yeah,
the
sex of
bodily
any kind.
fluids?
Let me put it this way: it's sex of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, oral, anal, vaginal.
Mm-hmm. All right. I hope y'all taking notes out there. Go
And
get tested.
getting tested is a simple blood work. It's simple blood work. It should be something you do when you go to the doctor.
Mhm.
Nobody says anything when they say, listen, we need to take blood because we need to find out what your blood count is. Well, at the same time, tell them to take an HIV test.
I wonder when you go to the hospital, like I went to the emergency room, they did blood work, but they did blood work to, I guess, see if I had like any type of infections or a virus or anything like that. But for women, it's mostly to see if you're pregnant. They do like the pregnancy test. Um, when you guys run blood work, I'm assuming that you tested for pretty much like everything. No? Or so what do you test test the blood
Okay,
for?
let's start with I work in pediatrics now.
Okay, okay.
Yes, I work in pediatrics now. And now let me let you know the pediatric goes up to 22.
Okay.
Okay? So, which didn't happen when I was a kid, but it goes up to 22. So if you are 21 in 364 days, you can still come to pediatrics. That 65th day, you have to go to adult med. So we test you for the basics. You get your regular blood test. Once you become sexually active, we have to ask you if you want to test. We're an opt-out state.
Mm, mm. I didn't
So we have to ask you. We can't just say, well, listen, we're going to run a blood. We're going to do an HIV test. So if you're sexually active, I have them run everything. And I tell them, I said, I need you to go and have the blood work done. The problem with teenagers is most of them don't want to have blood work.
Mhm.
Now, if they come in for their physical and they have to have blood work anyway, it's not actually an extra vial.
How accurate is the saliva test?
We're not actually doing the saliva test anymore.
Mhm. See, this is like I just remember them coming to the school doing
I did those. I did the 20-minute test. Um, and they were pretty accurate. Actually, I think we were, I could be wrong because my brain is not there right now. I think we were like 90, 98, 99%.
Okay.
Okay. Um, and then we started with the finger stick. We started with blood.
Mhm.
Then we went to saliva. Now they're back at blood.
And it was like was it
But
a
the blood
cheap
test now they have a 1-minute blood test. So we used to make you sit for 20 minutes. And I did this in the public. This is what I did.
Yeah. I
But
remember
it's
they used to have it at Miles College at our college where I met Portia. And they used to come up there, and we would go up there. All the students would go up there and do the rapid tests and things like that, and just wait around for your results. Yeah.
yeah. And it's a matter of telling people, one, it's not gonna it doesn't have to kill you. It doesn't. It does require that you're diligent with your medication for your best results. It does require, I truly believe that you are honest with your partners.
Yeah.
It's your best outcome. Um, it is not a lot to invest in making sure you're healthy and to understand what you're doing. I don't have to judge what you're doing, but I think that how you do whatever you do should be safe for both you and your partner. There is a way to make every act safe.
Yeah.
There's barriers for everything that you do.
Once once a person is positive, what are some ways that they can strengthen their immune system outside of just the basic drugs? For
Rest, proper eating, um, exercise, getting your body just healthy makes a huge difference. Stress. is a serious problem. But stress is a serious problem for any immune issue. If
Mm,
you have high blood pressure, stress is a problem.
yeah.
If if you're diabetic, stress is a problem.
Yeah. Stress is that silent killer.
That's silent killer. And anytime your immune system has been impacted, stress is an issue.
You hear my dog over here
All
scratching.
right.
I'm like, what is he doing?
He's jumping. He's okay. But it's a matter of understanding what your body is going through
Hmm.
and doing the best you can for your body. People who are HIV positive can have normal love lives and can have normal relationships and can have children who are born without the virus, and they can have spouses and partners who never become positive. It's about making good decisions and being safe with each other and
Yeah.
being honest. Honesty is the biggest key to anybody being safe. If I know what I'm walking into, then I have the right to make a decision to either walk through the door or don't walk through the door.
Right.
And then if I decide to walk through the door, I can walk through the door safely.
But if you don't tell that person, then they can't, make that decision. So you're kind of taking that away from them.
That's true. And then two, one of the things we used to tell people, and I tell my teenagers anyway, is this: treat everybody as though they're positive of something.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be HIV.
Right.
It could be chlamydia, it can be gonorrhea. And then the first thing you have to do is to protect yourself. And if you start off having sex using condoms, you don't have a problem with using condoms. The problem is everybody wants to start off and then they go, oh, I don't want to use a condom. Why not?
Hmm.
What is it going to cost you compared to what it could cost you if you don't?
Right. Absolutely. I agree.
So
So,
it's not the end of the world.
yeah. So if someone wanted to get tested, where would they go? Would they just go to their primary care doctor? Would they go to the local health department? How would they go by getting
Pretty
tested?
much they could go anywhere. They can usually go online if they don't want to go to their primary care doctor, which I don't understand. Um, you can go online and you can Google HIV testing in my area,
Okay.
and it should come up. You put in either your zip code or where you live. And you can also find out where free HIV testing is or where there's rapid testing. Now, because there's targeted testing a lot of places, they're not really testing women.
Right.
The best place for a female to get tested is with her doctor.
Hmm.
Why not put it in your chart? What's the big deal?
Yep.
You know, I have people who will not tell their doctors what they're doing sexually. And I'm asking them, why not? This is your doctor. This is confidential. They're bound by HIPAA. If something happens to you, your doctor should know what it is.
Right.
Um, we have people who are having we have people who are having oral sex and ending up with oral infections who aren't talking to their doctor, so they're not getting swabbed.
Mm.
So we need those things to happen. I need people to be honest with their doctors, honest with you, because your doctor's got to keep you alive. Come
Right.
on,
Absolutely.
okay? Talk to your doctor. Find a doctor that you think is trustworthy. Find a doctor where you are comfortable. But talk to your doctor. Don't lie to your doctor. Don't lie to your hairdresser. Don't lie to your lawyer.
Hmm. Because, especially we have to know that information just in case you do cut yourself. Like if we do have an HIV patient in the office, we have to wipe the tables down with a certain part of bleach to water. So we have to, clean that table off that way. So it
And
is
we talk
very important.
and we talk about HIV, but once you clean up the blood from HIV, or once the blood dries and it hits there, the virus dies.
Hmm.
Nobody's talking about hepatitis,
No.
and all it has to be is moist, and that virus is active.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So we are we're just not really wanting to talk about anything that we think will put us in a bad light.
Yeah.
And we are still stuck that sex puts us in a bad light. But it's something that everybody does.
Yeah. Everybody.
Okay? It is. It's like, okay, we're still walking among the world. So as long as we're walking on the earth, somebody's having sex.
Yeah.
Okay? We need to just talk about it openly. If we talk to our children and we're honest with our children, and they have a safe place to come, we can start eliminating some of the risks, because then at least they have information. I have kids who are having oral sex or same sex and telling me they don't have sex because, as far as they know, sex can only happen between opposite sexes. So they'll tell me, no, I'm not sexually active. And I go, are you sure you're not sexually active? They go, yeah, because I'm with a guy or I'm with a girl. Well, that makes you sexually active.
Hmm.
And I go, well, how? Or my girls who say I'm not having sex because um, it's not penetrative.
Yes, and that goes with educating your kids too. I know when we were in Delaware, my daughter, they actually had a sex education class, and I'm not sure if they really have one down here, but I remember also too when I was younger, we used to have someone come in and talk to us about STD prevention and things of that nature. So I'm not sure if they still do that or not.
It happens in some places, and some places have comprehensive sex ed, and that's wonderful.
Hmm.
But recently, I'm getting more kids telling me there is no sex education in their school. Um, and we know for sure there's been none in a year because schools have been out.
Right. Versus
And what
6.
people, yeah, what people didn't understand is that anybody who works in public health knows that the moment that they were sending the kids home, that we were going to get a rise in babies, HIV, and STDs.
Yes.
And people were looking at everybody going, oh, why? That doesn't make sense. The kids aren't together. Yes, they are.
They're gonna be home,
Because they're not in school.
Right.
And
Mom and dad
parents
at
are
work.
working. Mom and dad and them were working. And people used to say, I remember people having the conversation that I don't know how they got pregnant because they're home right after school.
That's the problem.
And I said, well, they checked in with you. Or the fact that most babies that happen in high school
Mhm.
happen in high school.
Yeah.
They happen when people cut in classes, not when people go home. Things
Yeah.
didn't change because we got older, or the kids who got pregnant at church. And they're like, well, I don't know how their child got pregnant. Her mama always had her in church. Well, that's how she got pregnant. She was in church.
Mhm.
Okay. But it's never just her. She didn't get pregnant alone. you know. But the same thing happens is this. If you can get pregnant, you can get an HIV, you can get HIV, you can get an STD. Why? Because you're getting it the same way.
Yes.
And nobody wants to talk about it. No, that's not, she just did. That's fine, but she was still at risk. He was at risk. The kids were at risk. And we're not having those conversations about what does this look like for your future? Not just if they have HIV, but if you're 16 and you have HIV and you're going to school and you're trying to do stuff, being a teenager is stressful enough.
Yes. Yeah.
And now try to be a teenager without the information that most teens should have, and then trying to date in high school. If you have a problem trying to date when you have a pimple, how does it feel to try to date and have HIV?
I know.
So how do we protect our kids? Talk to them, we give them information. We talk to them about barriers. We talk about using a dental dam, using a condom, using a finger cot. We talk to them about the risk factors of what they're doing. We talk to them about not necessarily being shamed out of something, but being educated out of it. If I give you something better, would you do better with it?
Hmm.
Instead of treating them that they did something terribly wrong when most of us did what they did at that age.
Right. That's true.
So we've got to be honest with each other. And we've got to be honest with our friends. We have friends who are taking high risk and we know it. And we need to stop and say, listen, hey, when's the last time you had a test? When's the last time, do you have condoms? Are you using condoms?
That's so true.
So
That's
we can be honest with our kids and we need to be honest with our friends and our parents, no matter how old they are or how old we are.
right.
Sometimes we have to tell our parents.
And just be honest with ourselves, like, especially. So, of course, you said everyone should get tested twice a year. But
"Mm,
if you know your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your wife is stepping out and,
get tested."
get tested because, this is your life that you're playing with. So
Yes,
you don't have to go out and tell the world that you're getting tested. It could just be something between you and your primary care doctor.
absolutely. Because your primary care doctor has to hold your things confidentially.
Mhm.
You should trust your primary care doctor. And you should be honest because this is about your health. This is not a judgment call. This is about keeping you healthy. And when I talk to the kids that I see, I tell them it's not about what you do, it's how you do what you do. And I need you to do whatever it is that you're doing safely.
Yep,
And if you're telling me what you're doing, I can make sure you have what you need to be safe.
absolutely.
And that's all we have to do. We want to make this not a as I tell them because I used to work with the churches, I was like, this is not a sin, but it is a problem. I need you to do what's best for you to assure that your health is good. Just like we can't, as we used to tell them, we cannot have fried chicken and tell people that they have that we are talking about their blood pressure. We're having a health fair at church and we're having fried chicken and we're having peach cobbler and we're talking about having a healthy life. That's not having that it feels good, it tastes good, but that's not part of your healthy regimen.
Right.
So we have to start being honest and
Yeah,
being open. And it's
absolutely.
okay. and to tell people, let's have this conversation. Let's have a real conversation about sex and about safety and keeping ourselves safe, keeping our partners safe, and in turn, keeping our community safe.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Miss Sheila, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. You have taught me a lot just from this show that we've done tonight, and I know some of the viewers are gaining knowledge as well. So, just thank you so much for just blessing us with your presence. And if you got anything from this show tonight, it's definitely get tested, protect yourself, and do what you need to do to make sure that you are living your best life. Do you have any closing remarks for them, Miss Sheila?
No, I just want people to let's be honest with ourselves. Let's be honest with others. And let's be honest with our doctors,
Yes.
okay? So that we can be healthy.
Yes, absolutely. And if you guys are watching tonight, I just want to say tune in every Monday to Random Health Ish. We have a new show every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Because I know somebody tried to sign on last week at 6 o'clock. So definitely tune in, and I will see you guys next week. Have a blessed night. Good night, guys.